Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the new film The Gorge that just came out on Apple Plus. So let's talk about it. As it starts, two elite snipers, an American named Levi Kane, played by Miles Teller, and a Lithuanian named Drasa, working for Russia and played by Anya Taylor-Joy, are assigned a mysterious mission by their respective nations to guard either side of a deep gorge without knowing what lies beneath them. Levi is positioned in the western tower, guarding the western side, while Drasa is in charge of the eastern tower, overlooking the gorge from the eastern side. The only mission details available about their new mission are that they're to serve watch on opposite sides of the ultra-classified gorge for a year, and to prevent anything leaving the gorge by any means necessary. The British Royal Marine that Levi replaces offers his personal theory that the gorge is a portal to hell and that their predecessors named its inhabitants the Hollow Men. He goes on to state that in the 1940s, 3 battalions consisting of 2,400 men were sent in, with none of them returning. The Royal Marine is murdered by his extraction contact, reflecting the highly sensitive nature of this site. The two mercenaries are prohibited from directly communicating with each other. Despite this, Drasa initiates communication via written signs, and the pair establish a rapport while continuing to grow closer during respites from exterminating would-be escapees from the gorge. After 6 months of isolation, Levi ziplines to the other side of the gorge to spend time with Drasa. The next day, Levi attempts to cross back to his side of the gorge, but on his way back, the mines on the western side of the gorge detonate as some hollow men climb the wall, causing him to fall into the gorge as the zipline cable snaps. Drasa parachutes in to rescue him, and the two discover that the gorge was a former bioweapons research lab and base that was abandoned after World War II when an earthquake caused a contamination leak, mutating the inhabitants, creating people spliced with animals, plants, and insects. The mutated creatures attacked the pair multiple times, but they managed to survive. They also managed to find and use an old Jeep and a towing cable to climb back out of the gorge, with Levi injuring his leg. The gorge is revealed to be a research site for a company named Dark Lake, which wants to use the Hollow Men for genetically enhanced soldiers, and they're willing to eliminate anyone who discovers this secret. Dark Lake discovers that both guards from the gorge have been compromised and sends a helicopter with armed men to eliminate them. When Dark Lake's team arrives and doesn't find Levi in his station, they activate armed drones to kill Levi and Drasa. The duo manage to escape, destroying the drones pursuing them, and then the satellite cloaking mechanism hiding the gorge. These actions activate the Stray Dog Protocol, a nuclear weapon placed originally to destroy the gorge in case it became exposed. The nuclear explosion kills everything within the blast radius, including Dark Lake's chopper, with everyone aboard. However, Levi and Drasa manage to escape, but Levi is knocked unconscious by the blast and falls into a river, theoretically drowning. Drasa self-quarantines herself to make sure that the gorge's biological mutation agent didn't contaminate her, and she discovers a letter from Levi in her clothes asking her to open it at sunset if he doesn't make it out and get to their meeting place at the appointed time. She manages to then make it to France, having not been infected, and waits for Levi at an agreed meeting point until sunset, but he doesn't show up. She opens his letter and discovers the text of a poem he had told her that he had written about her but wouldn't read to her, called She Collapsed the Night. Drasa then finds a job as a waitress in a local restaurant, and one day, Drasa finds Levi, who managed to survive his fall, sitting at a restaurant table, and they are thus reunited, and that's where the movie ends. So, I wanted to see this film immediately when I saw the trailer because it looked really good and it looked like something that hadn't really been done before. I mean, it's essentially sort of a zombie apocalypse movie in a way, and that, of course, has been done before. But I thought this was a fresh take on the, what's the mysterious horror type of movie, And so I wanted to see it. Plus, I love Anya Taylor-Joy. She's great. So I knew I wanted to see it. And I wasn't disappointed. I really liked it. I think the look of the film was excellent. I think they did a great job with the cinematography. I was a little annoyed that a lot of the scenes were dark inside the tower because you couldn't really see anything, but I think that just, added to the atmosphere of the film. So I think they nailed the atmospheric thing all the way around, both during daylight and at night, even though it was too dark to really see anything. I thought that they established the characters really well, and I thought the characters were believable. I thought that the acting was very good. I thought that Miles Teller did an excellent job, and I really liked Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of Drasa as well. There are a lot of fun sequences in the movie when they're getting to know each other across the distance of the towers, and I really enjoyed that. The horror sequences, the first time you see the Hollow Men, for example, and then later when they're actually in the gorge, which I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't think they were going to end up in the gorge, so that was a welcome thing. I thought that was really cool. Were just really well done as well. I thought the creatures were somewhat unique. I mean, we've seen similar stuff like in Pirates of the Caribbean, the one with Davy Jones. I forget which one that was, but we saw a similar thing there. But I thought it was really well done. I thought the landscape was spooky and scary, and the creatures were scary. And then on top of that, you find them exploring this area that you think is just like a woodland kind of area that's just, all woods and nothing else. But there are actually buildings down there and cars and, labs and structures. And it's like, wait a minute, what is down here? And it turns out it was like some kind of a town where they were doing experiments to try to create bioweapons, and people got infected when there was a leak after an earthquake. And then they covered it up. So I thought that was really good, that it was not some, sci-fi, answer in terms of like, aliens landed there or creatures escaping from hell or creatures from another dimension that crossed into ours in this gorge. It was a story of a human thing gone wrong and then a cover up on top of it, which I thought added a layer. So I really liked that. I thought Sigourney Weaver was good in it. She's in it very briefly, but she was very good. And, I liked the love story. I thought the love story was good. So I really enjoyed the movie. I do have a few nitpicks. I think that they fell in love a little too fast. Like, I wouldn't have said that if they didn't say to each other that they loved each other and just kind of like had a romantic entanglement. I would have bought that. It seemed appropriate for the amount of time they had gotten to know each other and whatnot. But to fall sort of in actual love in that short period of time, I wasn't really buying that. I mean, it was only 8 months. Like, I guess you could. But for half of it, they weren't even communicating with each other. So, I don't know. I don't know that I buy that they fell in like full-blown romantic love in that period of time. So that was a little bit cheesy, but it didn't take away from the movie in any great way. Another nitpick I have is maybe several nitpicks rolled into one, but it has to do with the setup of, the premise where they put these lone guards in a tower, by themselves on either side of the gorge to make sure that nothing got out of the gorge. Yet when you have a one-person operation, that means that when they sleep, whether it's for 5 hours a night because they're trained to only get by on 5 hours a night, or if it's the full 8 hours a night, the Hollow Men, as it were, have a perfect opportunity to try to escape. I mean, obviously you could set up an alarm, and there are mines like, along the wall. So if the mines go off, obviously, there's a chance you're going to wake up and be able to deal with the threat. But like, it seems to me that gives the Hollow Men an advantage that they shouldn't have, like that they're going to get way too close before you're even awake and able to deal with the threat. That didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense that you would not put 2 people in each tower, or at the very least, mandate that one tower sleeps during the day and the other tower sleeps at night, so that at least one person is awake at all times. It didn't make sense to me that they would do it that way. That's not how a military operation of that nature would work. And then another thing they did was whenever the mines did go off, they would have to replace them the next day so that they would be there the next time. And so who's in the tower? You're down there replacing mines and replacing ammo and the automatic guns. Who's watching the gorge from the tower? I mean, yeah, the person on the other side, but you'd have to coordinate it. And there was a strict rule where they don't coordinate. So even though they did, but the rule is such that you're not supposed to. So how does that make any sense? Like, you would have to coordinate with the other side so that you could do things in shifts, sleep, replace mines, replace ammo. And another thing, do patrols. They would do patrols along the perimeter. Okay, well, who's in the tower? Like, from the perimeter on the ground, you can only shoot in a certain range. Your range is much greater from way up in the tower, which is why the towers are there. So who was watching the gorge while you're on patrol. Again, if you're coordinating it with the other side can watch the gorge while you're patrolling. But if you're not supposed to coordinate, it doesn't make sense that they would only put one person on one side. It just doesn't make sense. And, you know, no, you're not supposed to have contact even. It just doesn't make sense. What if you got hurt and somehow wound up with an infection because you stepped on something out in the woods and it penetrated your boot and you got an infection? And, you know, presumably they had antibiotics in the building, but like, what if you were down for a couple of days? You can't even communicate with the powers that be except for a once a month radio check. So it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. It really didn't. They did come up with an excuse for why they didn't just bomb the area, because the corporation wanted to use what was down there to try to make super soldiers. They were sending drones in to collect samples. So that's why they didn't want to blow it up. So that made sense. But one thing that didn't make sense is all these mutations that the people went through with plants and animals and whatnot, none of them developed wings. None of them could fly, apparently. There were no mutations that caused people to develop the ability to fly. So I thought that was a little bit of a stretch. So I didn't really like that. But if you put those sort of nitpicky observations aside, it's a really good movie that, you know, has a romantic story and a scary story and an intrigue story. And it's just a really good movie. The performances are great. So I really liked it. I'd give it a 3.5 or 4 stars out of 5. And I think everyone should watch it. It's pretty good. That's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.